I'm working on it.
Well, I can do my wrap it myself. Yes, I
Yeah, magic.
Oh, magic.
Good morning, everybody. Well, you're a talkative group this morning. At Unity, we welcome everyone, even dancing leprechauns. How about the dancing leprechauns? We are actually starting a church service now. For those of you who might be interested in joining us, the rest of you who are oblivious, we will just work around you. All right. I want to tell you a few quick things. We've got so many announcements this morning. I've got a few quick things to tell you before our first song here. Michael? Woo!
Hear the lights.
And there you have it. Oh my gosh, the retired band director has returned. It's a resurrection, people. It's a resurrection. There's a very good reason why I wore this shirt today, besides the fact that I was late getting out of bed. Which is also true, but that is between me and my higher power. So, we're in the season. 'Tis the season. This is actually a shirt that says Spirit Fest. The very first festival that we put on here was called Spirit Fest, which is short for Spiritual Festival, or it's short for Nashville Chooses Peace, which is what the festival became very quickly. And now we are in our 4th year of putting on that festival. And I've got some really incredible news for you. First off, thank you so much to the hard work of Ryan Gill. We are almost there with being a 501c3. Which means all kinds of exciting things, including applying for grant money and all that kind of stuff that he knows more about than I do. But it's a very, very good move, and we're excited about it. And we are in the season because this week, Tuesday night, we have our Nashville Chooses Peace Festival meeting at 6 p.m. And starting this Tuesday night, it is every Tuesday night until the festival, which is when?
April 21st.
Very good. April 21st is our big festival here. And we need all hands on deck. This Tuesday night, we will be painting the peace pole, the very first layer of painting. And that's one way you can keep track of how many festivals we've had by how many peace poles we've got out front. So all hands on deck are needed. If you've never been involved in the center of Nashville Chooses Peace, this is the time. Come on out and join us. The great thing about Nashville Chooses Peace is that it's our way of engaging our community with one of our core values, which is peace. And this place is first and foremost a spiritual community. Has anyone else ever said, when someone says, where do you go to church? Well, I go to Unity, it's not really a church. Have y'all ever said that? I have. I've said that. And it's kind of like a spiritual community. And let me tell you about the folks who came out yesterday in this spiritual community to make things happen. The Land Lovers crew came out yesterday in full force, and we are so grateful for the way they show up for their spiritual community. That's the way all of this works, is that we all show up and do our part. So thank you to those folks. Now let's stand up and sing. This is your part to do for your spiritual community. We are love, joy, and peace. Everything else we release. We are love, joy, and peace. This is our gift to the world. We are love, joy, and peace. Everything else we release. We are love, joy, and peace. This is our gift to the world. We are love, joy, and peace. Everything else we release. We are love, joy, and peace. This is our gift to the world. We are love, joy, and peace. Everything else we release. We are love, joy, and peace. This is our gift to the world. We are love. We are joy. We are peace. Everything else we release. We are love. We are joy. We are peace. This is our gift to the world. We are love, joy, and peace. this morning. Oh my gosh. All right, hold on to your seats, because I got like a whole ton of things to tell you. I'm going to slide through them as fast as I can. I've already told you about Nashville Chooses Peace. Today, we've got something for you every single day this week. If you do not grow spiritually this week, it is not our fault. We are doing our due diligence. Tomorrow night we got choir practice. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you think that won't make you grow spiritually, you need to come out and sing with us, because we certainly do. Tuesday night, we've got Empath Support. Let me start with today. I'm so sorry. This afternoon, Reiki and Restorative Yoga with Becky this afternoon from 4 to 6. Nope.
We're sold out for today.
We're sold out for today. Never mind. See, you're too late. I would recommend that you go see Becky about getting on her list for next time. Okay? All right. Also, this afternoon is the Men's Emotional Support Group. Begins at 1 p.m. in the Namaste Cafe. Monday night is choir practice. Tuesday night is... Are you sold out for Tuesday night, Becky?
No.
All right. Tuesday night, Empath Support, 7 to 9. Also, the Nashville Chooses Peace meeting that I mentioned earlier. Wednesday night's class, I'll get to that in a minute. Thursday night, 7 to 9 p.m., Mediumship and Intuitive Development with Susie Wright. Friday night, Spirituality Unplugged with Frank Castellano. Right? Come on out, and I believe what they want you to do is bring a dish, right? It's a potluck, 6 to 9 on Friday night. That's always a wonderful, wonderful time. What am I? Oh, then next Sunday, we've got Understanding the Enneagram with Ramona Reed from 1:30 to 3:30. You can register in advance at mynashvillecenter.com, or it's $20 in advance or $25 at the door. If you've never done work with Enneagram, come on out. It's pretty powerful stuff. That's next Sunday afternoon. I am sure that one thing I want to tell you. Oh, two things I'm forgetting. Lord have mercy. Okay. You know, I can't have this many announcements on a Sunday morning. It gets me all nervous.
I am here now.
Okay. Purple shirts. If you want to order a purple shirt for the Nashville Chooses Peace, there's a sign-up sheet in the foyer back there. They're $10, I believe, something like that. $10. Get your purple shirt. Put your name on that list so that we can order those shirts. The other thing that I was going to tell you, I have completely forgotten, but I will remember after we sing this song. Let's stand up and sing.
Some days
we've been talking about how we're raising money for the McGavick Cluster Coalition to help support our young folks. We did it. We reached our goal. Cut a $500 check to the McGavick Cluster Coalition, well, whatever it is, this very morning. So good on you. Good on you for that. A couple of other things I want to just tell you about that are coming up. Of course, this week, Lunch Bunch is at 11:30 on Wednesdays. And then this Wednesday evening, we have the third class of Keep a True Lent. If you haven't joined us for the first two, that's okay. Come on out and join us. Rev D is back with us. I have to tell you, we've had some really powerful classes the last couple of weeks, and I've been ever so grateful about what I have received from those. So come on out and join us. And then keep on your schedule, Thursday, March 29th. We're going to have a very special Maundy Thursday service here. And Maundy Thursday is, of course, the night that Jesus had his Last Supper with the disciples. And we're going to have several spiritual experiences for you. We're going to recreate the Garden of Gethsemane. There'll be foot washing, spiritual baptism, communion, healing, several events that you can, several experiences that you can join in on. So I highly encourage you to come out for that. And then just really quickly, coming up, put it on your calendar, Sunday, April 8th, we're going to have Martha Creek here. And if y'all remember Martha, well, if y'all remember Martha, you'll be here. Because you know she'll probably hunt you down if you're not. No, Martha's awesome, and it's always a fantastic and transformative experience to be here with Martha Creek. She's going to be with our leadership all weekend long. If you're interested in having a more immersive experience and you're not yet in leadership, talk to Reverend D about that, because I'm sure we can probably find a spot for you.
Good morning, beautiful people. Would the other prayer chaplains please stand? Know that the prayer chaplains are here to pray with you. We will have prayer as part of that Maundy Thursday service also. And there will be a prayer chaplain in the prayer room after today's service for your convenience. Convenience of having prayer. You can have prayer any old time. Let's get serious. Today is the 5th Sunday of Lent, with the theme of overcoming. What in your life are you willing to overcome? Jesus, the master teacher, challenged his listeners during the Sermon on the Mount. This challenge was given in a few sentences, about 100 words, and it has become the biggest challenge for all humankind. Judge not, that you be not judged. So, the affirmation. The more curious I become, the less judgment I express. Say it with me. The more curious I become, the less judgment I express. When I choose to judge people, situations, and things, I fall into a mindset of fear. I shut myself off to the infinite possibilities that are all around me. So in this moment, I choose to open my heart and my mind. As I cultivate an insatiable desire to learn more, I lean into a childlike wonder, and my language shifts. I begin to use words like, I wonder, what if, or I'm curious about. All of a sudden, every person, situation, and thing becomes a fascinating opportunity to learn something new and to discover something within myself. And so today, in this now moment, as I begin to breathe, I realize that I am open to seeing, hearing, and experiencing whatever is in front of me. I begin to notice what I am noticing without making meaning or creating a story about it. I choose curiosity over judgment, and I watch my life transform into a daily adventure full of wonder and delight. The more curious I become, the less judgment I express. The less judgment I express, the happier I feel. And the happier I feel, the more my life expands into one of ease and grace.
So I ask that you settle in your seats. And before we even begin, we're going to do a reset breath. And so just breathe out. And if you find that you need to do that again before we get started, do another breath out. Just releasing any tension that you might have brought in here with you. And just be here now. Just begin to pay attention to your breath and the ease with which it comes in and flows out. And begin to balance that intake and out breath. And as you begin that process, you can go deeper. And when you're ready, drop those 18 inches to your heart. And allow that breath that you're breathing to expand your heart. Knowing that the expansion of the heart is what allows us to let go of judgment. The expansion of the heart allows us to be more curious, more childlike. The more curious I become, the less judgment I express. And so pay attention again to your heart. And again, allow it to expand even more. And allow yourself in this moment to just be curious about this process of being in the presence, in the silence, in the silence. Living, loving Spirit, I am wanting to become more full of wonder, more full of curiosity, more willing to see with new eyes, knowing that the more curious I become, the less judgment I express. The less judgment I express, the happier I feel. And the happier I feel, the more my life expands into one of ease and grace and infinite possibilities. I surrender. I surrender. Special music today is Michael Elley. And while Michael is getting his guitar on and getting prepared, I want to take this brief second to say to Reverend Denise how dearly we love you and how happy we are to welcome you back.
I'd like to mention that Dr. Judy had an epiphany this morning. she made the comment, what do you get when you cross a shamrock with poison ivy? A rash of good luck. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen and down the mountainside, the summer's gone and all the leaves are falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer on the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. For I'll be here in sunlight or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But come ye back when all the flowers are dying and I am dead, oh dead I well may be. You'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall find the soft you you tread above me, and all the dreams will warm and sweeter be. If you'll not fail to tell me that you love me, and I will dream in peace until you come to me. But come ye back when summer's on the meadow, and all the flowers white as snow. For I'll be here in sunlight or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so.
What an awesome way to end a St. Patrick's Day weekend. And it kind of, one reason I wanted him to do that song is not only because of St. Patrick's Day weekend, but it fits a little bit into my lesson, and you may be surprised at the way it does. This Sunday is the 5th Sunday of Lent, and it's about overcoming. And I chose for us to overcome judgment today. Is everybody ready? And believe it or not, in 2005, the Catholic Church had this big old conclave about that song. And they chose to not allow it in their masses of where people were dying, because they said it did not fit well into the Catholic Mass. Is that not interesting? How do we do such things in our world? How do we make the decisions we make? And are you aware of the judgments that you make all day, every day? We're programmed to live that way. And so if you heard the affirmation, I want you to hear that one more time. It is the more curious I become, the less judgment I express. Can you feel that? And so I guess what I would be asking you is, are you willing? So in just a moment, Deb and somebody else are going to pass out blank pieces of paper. And a pen if you need that. And we're going to have many times during this lesson where we're going to pause for a moment and for you to reflect. And this is for you to get clear. It's not true confessions. You don't have to share it with a soul. Yay! But where am I judging? And then at the end of the lesson, when we come to the time of gathering our tithes and offerings, there is a trash can up here right before you get to the affirmations. And so when Deb reminds you of this again, if you are willing to give up the judgments you put on your paper, you can throw them in the trash and they will be recycled. Okay?
Michael judgment.
Recycled into love out there in the universe.
because, quite interestingly, this has been an interesting week for me. Because this was my lesson, and some of you know my process is on Sunday. I kind of go, okay, my lesson for next Sunday is this, and bring it on. For the last 10 days, I was at the Unity Institute in Kansas City. And what is beginning to happen is that the ministerial paths are being melded into one path. And so people that were in the field licensing program or at the ministerial school are going to be grandfathered into this new thing that we are creating, which we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So the candidates that were there for this last 10 days to attempt to persuade those of us who are sitting there that they should be in the program don't really know what they're stepping into, because we don't either. So think about all that. And then as a candidate comes, they have to prepare a 10-minute talk and a meditation. And they have a group of people. Some of you saw a picture that I posted out there, a bunch of people looking auspicious at tables all across a big whole room. And you are doing this in front of them, and they have a 27-page rubrics where we are judging everything they do. Are you hearing me? This doesn't just happen at Unity Institute. This happens in metro schools all the time. It happens everywhere we are. So everybody breathe out for a minute. Because all week I was going, oh, why am I having to do this? Does that make sense? What is this about in our world that we are so judgmental about everybody and everything all across the board, constantly? So, which measuring stick are you using this moment in your life? And remember, we're going to get to karma and the law of attraction later, but whatever measuring stick you're using for that out there, it's being used on you too. There's the piece to remember. That's the bad piece to remember. So, why don't you all go on and pass out pieces of paper? Because people, as I'm talking, you may go, oh, I do that. Oh, I do that. And again, some of you may want to take it home and do prayer work around it, and some of you may be going, I'm willing to let this go today, because I know it's keeping me from being happy. Does that make sense? Or you may want to have 2 pieces of your paper. That's what I did one day out at Unity Institute. I had things I'm willing to let go of, things I'm not quite sure I've got to pray about first. Does that make sense? And I let go of some things while I was there. So as you're getting your paper, this is kind of like another burning bowl without the fire. Does that make sense? Judgment is the ability to make decisions or come to sensible conclusions. That word sensible is an interesting word. Because what is sensible to me may not be sensible to you. Hence, where judgment gets all convoluted. I know that in my relationship with Judy. We don't come at the world at all the same. At all. And what makes logical sense to me does not make any sense at all to her. Does that make sense? And so we have all these interesting conversations. Because to Denise, when I walk in, if it feels good, I'm good. She has spreadsheets and lists. And that doesn't feel good to me. Does that make sense? So, hear me. We're all wired up differently. But whatever it is that you judge, what does it feel like to you when you're done with it? We're getting ready to get deeper. We're going to be talking about the nature of who we are as people. Hear me. You were taught to judge from your parents. Can you hear that? You were taught that. And then you started in school. Think about all of that. Anybody ever get a big old F on your paper before? I did. Big old red F. That wasn't fun. So we've been judged all of our lives. Anybody have body image issues other than me? Do you see out there the judgment about all that and what you're supposed to look like? And if you hadn't had it tucked and tripped and sucked out and whatever else you're supposed to have done so that you can still look 25 when you're 60? That's not normal. But it's what our world says we have to be. Does that make sense? That's just one thing. What about intelligence? Anybody ever compared yourself to somebody else and judged yourself because I'm not as smart as that person? I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not something enough. Judgment is a part of our everyday lives. And the reason I think this is so important is because this lesson is not just about who we judge and what we judge out there, but whatever we do out there, we do to ourselves. Yes. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. So if we can catch it here first and love ourselves first, do you understand? Then it'll go away out there. Do you believe that? That's what the law of attraction states. Yes. That the energy that I hold, if I let go of the energy of judgment, then I won't be doing it. It won't be coming at me either. Would that not be lovely? Can you breathe into that? Some of you just sucked the air out of the room a little while ago, and you're still holding it. I feel it's like, oh, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. So, first question for you to look at on your own piece of paper. What things do you judge daily? Here's an example. What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? Just think about that for just a moment. Give yourself about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. What do you judge every day? Does my hair look good? Does it not look good? Is this outfit okay? Is it not okay? Do I really like that person? Do I really want to have lunch with them or not? Just think. What do I judge? This is not to be hard. This is just to open the container and go, where do I do this? And where is it making my life harder? And remember, if you write something on this piece of paper, hopefully you'll be willing to let it go when this lesson's over with. Because hopefully we'll begin to understand that all of those judgments that we're holding are just making our lives harder. How many of you women, I won't ask the men, but I could, look in the mirror sometimes and judge yourself so harshly you go change clothes 2 or 3 times? Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I'm sure men don't do that, do you? I don't know if you do that. Or you put your lipstick on and then you go, oh, that looks really ugly. I better take that off. Or, you know, all those kinds of things that we do to ourselves. How many of you have ever written something and then went back and read it and went, oh, dear God. I'm not going to let anybody see that. Right? Think about what things do you judge daily. Okay? Next question. When do you judge others? Oh. Oh. That'll be different for all of us. B. Liff and I were honest with each other one night and said we judge people by their smells. Sometimes it's like, woo, what was that they had on? And it's so forceful, I'm just like, no, please, no, 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 no. Don't hug me, don't touch me. I don't want all that on me, whatever that is. That's my judgment. But what is it that we judge about people? Sometimes it's when they open their mouth. I will be honest to you, there was a woman that worked for the Unity Worldwide Institute. And talk like this the whole time. And I would be like going at the table, and one of the ladies that was sitting beside me is a life coach, and she was like, what are you doing? I said, blowing out. She said, I need to learn how to do that. I said, I'll teach you when this is over with. I was like, oh dear God, okay. Judgment. Judgment. And And then how do I, when it offends my soul, you know what I mean? There are certain things out there that offend my soul. How do I not judge it, and how do I deal with me? Earplugs, yeah. Yeah. Here's the biggie. When do you judge yourself? When do you judge yourself? When do you come up with those core beliefs that are down so deep that you're not sure where they came from or when they happened? But most of you that have known me for 20 years or more know that mine is, I'm not good enough. And when that comes up, I know it's coming up for healing again. And that's my judgment of myself. I'm not good enough. But yours may be something different than that. And what kinds of things out there in the universe being you to judge yourself? Yeah? This is a big judgment that a lot of us have after we pass 50 years old. My life is not really what I thought it was going to be. Anybody else have that ever happen to you? Like this was not it. This is not what I had in my mind's eye to be going on at this point in time in my life. And Carolyn Meese made a great statement that I want you to look at. And just think about that, because sometimes we judge our lives by, when I was 25 and 30, I assumed that X, Y, and Z would be, and X, Y, and Z is not. She says, just let go of how you thought your life should be, and embrace the life that is trying to work its way into your consciousness. Can you hear that? Because it's attempting to erupt within you in great joy and love and peace, but it can't do that as long as you're holding on to the vibration of what you thought was supposed to be. I work on Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night, with a group of women. Sometimes men are in the group, and they're going through infertility issues. And I talk to them a lot about their reproductive stories. Because none of us get married or have partners and want to have a child and assume that it ain't going to work. None of us get married to somebody and assume that we're going to get a divorce. We don't do that. So there are things that we have had stories about in the future, and all of a sudden we're walking a different path and we're going, I didn't plan this. And then we judge ourselves. So can you let that go? Where did humans learn to judge? Where do you think you learned to judge? Well, there are stories in all the major religions. In the Christian religion, it is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which Adam and Eve were told, don't eat. Don't eat of that. I don't think that has anything to do with an apple or a pear or a banana, whatever in the world you think it might have been. When I eat of the tree, when I take in the thought that there is good and bad, then I start separating the world out immediately. Does that make sense? And so that's where it started. That's where it started. I was told, if you take this idea in that you have to separate things by good and bad, then I will be doing it for the rest of my life until I'm willing to let it go. That's where it started. And no, again, in all major religions, there's a story like that. Not just in Christianity. Where did you learn to judge? Because that probably needs to be on your sheet also. My mama was on my sheet all week. Because my mama still judges everybody and everything. That's who she is. That's what she does. I love her now because I do. Because I've done a lot of work. Every Sunday we went to church, and every Sunday afternoon we came home and had Sunday lunch, and we sat around the table, and my mother judged everybody and everything that was his church, who had on what, and can you imagine she wore her hair like that? And why in the world did that man lead that song in church, and I didn't like any of what happened, and did you see so-and-so sitting by so-and-so? I wonder what they're doing. How are they sitting together? And it was just all of this barrage of judgment. Where did you learn to judge? Who taught you that that was the process? That that's what we do to survive, to move forward? Because that needs to be let go also. Does that make sense? Some of us learned to judge in school. I had a very big clue after I got past multiplication and division and adding and subtraction that math was not my strong suit. And so I had to judge everything I was doing, and I knew enough to know, don't turn this in because it's probably wrong. Find somebody that can help you. Does that make sense? So what did Jesus say? I think B told you what Jesus said. He said, judge not that you be not judged. What does that mean to you? That if I judge other people, I'm going to be judged also. Let me just read you those words, but then I'm going to read it to you from the Message where you can wrap your mind around it better. Judge not that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge other people, you shall be judged. Does that make sense? And then I love this part. I remember reading this as I got to be a teenager and thinking about my mother. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye? Remember that? But considerest not the beam that is in thy own eye. Because sometimes we judge that person out there, and we've got something big and bad and worse within us. But do you know why we do that? Because we don't want to look at it. We don't want to look at it. So it's easier to judge that out there. I want you just to open up your ears and hear this. This is from the Message. Don't pick on people. Don't jump on their failures or criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. Can you hear that? That critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and to be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Huh. Do you have the nerve to say, let me wash your face for you, when your own face is distorted by contempt? It's this whole traveling road show mentality all over again. Playing a holier-than-thou part instead of just living your life. Wipe that ugly sneer off your own face that you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. Breathe. I'm going to say something that may offend some people, but that's what I see with evangelical Christianity right now and all the political stuff that's going on. It's like there's so much judgment out there. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. But think about the things. The deal is, I don't have to get that out there. Because what I know is when I turn on the television, sometimes I'm judging that. And so what we're learning this morning is I have to just deal with me. Deal with me. And my little circle. Because it's simple, simple, simple. As I've said all along in March and even before, Jesus' message was so simple. Love and don't judge people. Wow. Do you remember the woman who was caught in adultery? These people in the scriptures, it says they actually literally drug her out into the middle of a circle. And they were supposed to stone her to death because that's what the law said. And do you remember what Jesus said? Any of you who have not sinned, cast the first stone. And the story is everybody laid their stones down and walked off. When are we as human beings going to be willing to lay our stones down and walk off? Ask yourself that. What is it that I still have a stone in my hand about? That I'm determined I'm going to throw it. Breathe. The air sucked out of it. If I knew that if I threw this stone, another one would come back at me, do you think I would throw it? Because my experience is if I throw that stone, about 25 come back at me. Does anybody have that experience? But I still sometimes think I need to. And I'm looking in your eyes because I know that that's what we do as people. I gotta speak my mind. I gotta tell them what I think. I'm just standing in my truth. And I know this is hard because some of us are political activists in this room. And so this is hard. And so what I will say to you that I've said to even Enid Fuzz, can I do what I'm doing in love? What is my intention for doing what I'm doing? Because that's what I had to work with all week at Unity Institute. If I fill out this 27-page rubrics on this person, can I share it with them in love, or am I going to share it with them from a haughty place? Does that make sense? What am I doing with this stone that I think I'm going to throw? Most of you here probably won't be surprised when I tell you that all of those years that are not spoken of in the Bible, Jesus was studying with Hindus and Buddhists. If that offends you, breathe really heavily and let it out. Because he was attempting to learn universal truths at that moment that could help society because he saw it was a huge mess. Does that make sense? I mean, the same thing's going on today. And so what he said to them is this. This comes out of the Gospel of Thomas. When birds are alive, they eat ants. When the birds die, the ants eat the birds. You get that piece? Just think about that. Yes, you can laugh, but that's kind of the way this all works. One tree makes 1,000,000 matchsticks. Only one matchstick is needed to burn down 1,000,000 trees. Can you hear that? I can throw one stone, I might get 25 or 100 come back at me. Okay? You may be powerful now, but your circumstances can change. Karma is powerful. Don't hurt anyone. Be good and do good. Period. Wow. Can you hear that? Anybody remember those bracelets we used to wear? What would Jesus do? It might behoove us to have another one. Except we used to say that would be, what would Judy do? Same thing. Now we call it the law of attraction today. The law of attraction is not necessarily a spiritual law, even though we use it as such. It is the opposite side of karma. Karma is a spiritual law. Okay? The law of attraction came out of quantum physics. And it says everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. That's why I tell people that work with me when I'm working in counseling or coaching with them, if there is something you want to create in your life, you have to become the vibration of that, and then you will be it. Poof. And they look at me and go, I can't sit in the place of wanting to be something because I will continue to want to be something. Can you hear that? That is an energetic field. I want to be prosperous. Okay. And the universe goes, yay, want to be prosperous. Want to be. For the rest of your life, want to be prosperous. That's why we struggle with affirmations, because we have people that say, I can't say that because that's not me. That's the way affirmations work. You're changing your head. I am prosperous, not I want to be. You feel the difference in the energy? Does that make sense? It's quantum physics. I have to become the vibration of those desires of my heart for them to come to me with ease and grace. So, one divine thought. What is your one divine thought? That's what we teach here. My one divine thought with you this morning was, the more curious I become, the less judgment I express. Can you understand that? That instead of being judgmental, I say, wow, tell me more about that. Wow, what if? Have you ever thought inside your head, what if that person is right? What if? What questions are you willing to ask yourself? Because this is really the deal. But it's actually deeper than just doing. I want you to hear this. See of others what you want seen of yourself. You hear that? See in others what you want to see in yourself. When I was filling out the rubrics for these people that were going through this process, I saw in them a powerful, prosperous unity minister. Because that's what I want. Does that make sense? So you have to see in other people. When I look at them with judgment, then it's coming back on me. If I see this person as a skanker dog, guess what's coming back at me? I'm a skanker dog. It's so simple, but it's hard. Because I've been trained to judge people. So if I can see in that person what I want to see in myself, then we start mirroring that. And then I am mentoring that person, and it's coming back to me. Can you hear that? Think about another person, what you want thought about yourself. Uh-oh. Anybody ever had any negative thoughts about another person? Do you want them thinking the same thing about you? No. We know this. We know this. We know this. But it hasn't made its way to here yet. Is that making some sense? Feel about another person the way you want to be felt about. That's a big how to do. I was practicing all week with that woman who talked like this. That's why I taught every unity minister who was sitting with me at that big panel how to do a reset breath. And by the end of the week, we were all going. But it works. Have you tried it? Out in the world when something just pisses you off? It works. Because I can drop into the peace place and go, I don't have to be judgmental about this. I don't. I'm sure I sound like that sometimes. Lord mercy. Judy probably says, yes, she does. So if I see other people the way I want to be seen, and if I think about other people the way I want to be thought about, and if I feel about other people the way I want to be felt about, I say about other people the things I want to be said about me. There's the kicker. Because what I see in our world is not that. And I'm not talking about people in here, I'm just talking about out in the world. People say the damnedest, nastiest things about people. And I'm like, what? Ooh. Where did we learn to do that?
Facebook.
Where did we learn that it was okay to say nasty, ugly things about other people? Where did we learn that? And do you believe that if we understood that if I say something nasty about somebody else, it's going to be said about me? And would I go, well? Do you understand why Jesus made this a priority in his Sermon on the Mount? Because do you realize what was going on in Roman rule and in Jerusalem and in those places? It was ugly. It probably mirrored what's going on in our world today. Does that make sense? And he was like, if you want to fix any of this, the first thing you have to do is love everybody, even your enemies. And the second thing you have to do is quit judging each other. Wow. Can you imagine what our world would look like if we just did those two things? Just those two things. So, pray. Because the first thing we do in unity is we have one divine thought. And then we pray and meditate and act on that. So I'm asking you to close your eyes for a moment. And the first thing I ask you to do is just to breathe out. And find your place in your body. And I know I've filled your head full of lots of stuff. And so I'm going to ask that you just let it all go in this moment. Because I know I'm preaching to the choir in here. It's not something that you don't already know. And so in the words of Jesus, the Master Teacher, for thee I thirst. For the divine I thirst. For that love, I thirst. And when I'm ready to drop those 18 inches to my heart, I allow that heart space to expand again, knowing that I can release any judgments and any unforgiven states. Living, loving Spirit, I ask that you heal me at death. I ask that you reveal to me the things that need to be revealed. And that you heal the things that need to be healed. Make me more curious and less judgmental. Make my life happier as I release judgment. And allow this life that I'm living to expand so that I am a force for good. That I do choose peace. And that my life flows with ease and grace. And so it is.
It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Well, it's me, yes, it's me, oh, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's not my mother, not
Seems the only one who understands the games that I've been playing.
I was the person that I wanted me to be. I guess it took a while for me to understand my lesson, but I finally found the freedom to be me. I don't have to play the tune where someone else is singing. I don't have to sing another song. I can write the melody and words to my own music, and I know I'm singing right or when I'm singing wrong. You gotta play a song the way you feel it. Play your life the same. Don't expect to be a winner in someone else's game. You'll only find your wasted time with other people's rules. Find yourself before you find you're playing the fool. Hardest thing to understand, just when you think you're winning, you turn out to be a loser after all. The biggest price you have to pay is not to face the losing, but in learning not the lesson from the fall. I've seen others make the same mistake and never learn by viewing. I guess you see just what you want to see. It's amazing when you step aside, look across your shoulder, then you see just what you were or what you want to be. You gotta play a song the way you feel it. Play your life the same. Don't expect to be a winner in someone else's game. You'll only find your wasted time with other people's rules. Find yourself before you find you're playing the fool. Find yourself before you find your play the fool.
All right, I have my piece of paper that I'm going to recycle. So I want to remind you that if you would like to release all of your judgments today, we have the opportunity for you to put that in this blue bucket, take an affirmation, and then give of your tithes and offerings in the crystal bowl during our sacred walk of abundance. So if you'll take your piece of paper and your tithes and offerings in your hand and say the offering affirmation with me, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Please join us.
our hearts and our hands and our minds to this legacy of love that we are leaving here, which starts with loving ourselves. And as I love myself, I am able to love others. And then I project that love out into the world. And that love comes back to me, heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. For that's the law, and so it is. Amen.
You know how the older you get, the wiser your parents become? Jill and I were just figuring out that the more spiritually mature we become, she becomes a better preacher. We get it.